Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is guide for round 7 of the Nations Cup Exhibition Season 2. Let's get this started. Take this first right turn flat out, and your first braking point is going to be where the red area on the right starts, where the 150 meter mark is. You're going to be braking hard for a short while, and once you start to turn in, that is where you want to start to ease off of your brakes. Try to nail these apexes, as it's going to be crucial to get the rotation needed to get through these turns without lifting off of the throttle too much. Try not to go too wide through the exit of this chicane, as it's really easy to end up going too wide and end up in the grass. Take this right turn flat out and brake just before the grass on the left starts. Brake hard for a short moment and start to ease off of the brakes as you turn in. Briefly go down to second gear for extra rotation. Get on third gear and get on the throttle as soon as you can. And once again, try not to get on the grass. Look for this orange barrier on the right, as you want to start to brake just as you pass it, and use just a little bit of braking. You want to bring the car into the curves for extra rotation and then get on the throttle as soon as you can. If you do this right, you can take the rest of the S's flat out without needing to steer the car too much. Now bring yourself to the left, look for the 150 meter mark or the start of the curb on the left, as you want to start to brake just before you pass them. Try not to brake on the curbs too much, try not to take too much advantage of this curb on the inside. Get the rotation done and then slowly accelerate, do not get too much onto the curbs. You can take this first chicane flat out, and it is possible to do the same thing for the chicane to death. Turn in where the curb on the right starts, and you just want to fine tune the car just enough to be able to nail it through the chicane, still going flat out. So this will be just for the time trial, but during the actual qualifying and race, you'll be lifting off of the throttle for there. So your final braking point is before you reach the 100 meter mark. You're going to be braking hard for a short while. Go for a somewhat of a light apex, as this car is a little bit understeery. Get on the throttle as soon as you can and you are good to go. Apologies if the birds are being loud, because there's a whole bunch of birds that live near here. But anyways, let's go ahead and go to the qualifying strategies. So for the qualifying session, you're going to have 5 minutes to try to get a good qualifying time, and this will give you 2 chances to try to get the best time possible. Or should I say 1, because the tire wear is pretty high here. So once you do your first qualifying lap, that's pretty much going to be it. Your tire wear will be pretty noticeable once you do your second qualifying lap, so you're not going to be able to get a better time unless if you really messed up your first lap. Because there are many high-speed sections here, it is pretty useful to be under the slipstream, but you need to position yourself just right. You'll need to be right at the edge of the slipstream zone, which is 3/4 of a second behind the car in front of you, and that way you'll have less of a chance to get too close to the car in front of you during your qualifying lap. If you start the qualifying lap too close to the car in front of you, you're going to have to slow yourself down, and that's really going to hurt your own qualifying time. So positioning is going to be important here, or you can try to do what I'm doing here and just try to qualify by yourself. You won't have to worry about anyone getting in your way, but you won't have the slipstream advantage, which could put you at, a disadvantage. So at the end of the day, you only have 2 chances to try to get the best qualifying time possible, but you want to make sure that you're able to get a squeaky clean first qualifying lap done. First of all, check out this sick decal of Gargura. But anyways, so we are doing 13 laps at Dragon Trail Seaside. This is a grid start, and we are doing this race in the Mini Clubman VGT. I'm doing the handbrake trick, where when the lights go green, all you do is just let go of the handbrake and you're off. And when you start your race, you can push the car a little bit more, because you're trying to get away from all the shenanigans that's about to happen here at turn 1. And you pretty much just want to push until you complete this first chicane. After that, you're going to want to be fuel saving, because this is a fuel saving race. So you're going to want to shift when the bar on the bottom of the screen is around halfway full. If you shift at the halfway point, you should have enough fuel to be able to make the whole race. You're looking at using around 7.5% of fuel per lap, so you're going to need to constantly take a look at your fuel mapping, which I'll show in a bit, to make sure that you have enough fuel to be able to make the race. And there's going to be parts where I push the car a little bit more, but to make up for the additional fuel used there, I will be shifting a little bit earlier on other parts. But the general idea is shift when the bar on the bottom of the screen is halfway full, and you should be fine. Slipstream will also come into use, as that will help you save a bit more fuel along the way. And when you go through the chicane of death, make sure you lift off of throttle so the car can have a bit more rotation, so you can get through it in one piece and hopefully not get your soul collected. So with the fuel at ×3, fuel is going to be an issue, so make sure you fuel save. And the tire wear is a ×10, which means that tire wear is going to be a big issue. You have the racing soft and medium tires available to you, but interestingly, there's no tire requirements, so that's going to open up for a bunch of potential strategies. So for example, let's say you're able to make the racing soft tires last 6 to 8 laps. If you can make that happen, then you're going to go with the soft into soft strategy and call it a day there. If tire saving is not really your thing, then you can try to do a 2-stop where every 4 to 5 laps you go in for a new set of racing soft tires, or you can do an alternate 1-stop strategy where you do 5 laps on the soft tires and 8 laps on the racing medium tires. Or if you really want to test your tire saving skills, then you can try to go for the no stop on the racing medium tires. Whichever strategy you do, just make sure you feel safe so you don't have to waste any time refueling, or for those doing the no stop, you don't end up running out of fuel before you cross the finish line. And interestingly, the 1-stop strategy where you only use the racing soft tires is going to be the fastest way to go around this race. You do need to be careful because you do have to do some tire saving to make your racing soft tires last at least half of the race each stint. And you also want to make sure that you don't get into too many battles or end up having to serve too many penalties, because that will enable those doing the multiple stops or alternate 1-stops or even the no stoppers to potentially catch up to you. Basically, if you're doing the 1-stop where you do soft into soft, you just want to try to get the heck away from everyone else who's doing an alternate strategy to make it really hard or even impossible for them to catch up to you. And don't forget that when you start your new stint, your car is going to be a lot lighter because it's already used up quite a bit of fuel. So your car is going to be able to accelerate even faster, which will help you get even faster lap times compared to your first stint. Also, before I forget, if you look at the bottom right hand corner of your screen, that's the fuel mapping that I was mentioning earlier in the video. So you can get to it by pressing left or right on the D-pad on your controller, or the plus or minus buttons on the Logitech wheels. And you'll eventually come to this fuel mapping menu, which will tell you how much fuel you have left and how many laps you have remaining. So this will really help you in determining if you have to fuel save even more, or if you have enough fuel to be able to either push a little bit more or just stay where you're at in terms of fuel saving to be able to finish the race. So for example, right here, I have 2.1 laps remaining of fuel and I'm on lap 12, so I have to do 2 laps. So right now I have just a little bit of extra fuel left, so I can play around with it a bit more. I can push the car just a little bit more while making sure that I will not run out of fuel before I cross the finish line. The only time that you want to adjust the fuel mapping is if you're in a really sticky situation, you're on the final lap and you're a little short on fuel, then that's where you can adjust the values to go from the power, which uses the most power but uses the most fuel, to go to lean, which uses the least amount of power but saves you the most fuel. Most of the fuel saving that you want to do is via the short shifting and slipstream if that is available. Only use the fuel mapping if you are in a really bad situation and you're already doing the most fuel saving possible while trying to keep pace with those around you. So let's go ahead and take a look at the no stop, because I did decide to try this out and I found a couple problems with it. The first one is at the very start of the race. People are going to find out right away that you're on the racing medium tires, so they're going to take advantage of you. So you're definitely going to get passed on quite a bit, and you're just trying to do your best to make sure you don't get pushed off or that you don't get passed way too many times to the point where this strategy kind of just ends up falling apart at the very start of the race. So you will have to be defensive for pretty much the entire race, but the point where you have the advantage is when those doing the one stop or whoever is on the soft tires are starting to have the tires worn out. At that point, their pace is going to slow down quite a bit, and you'll be able to have an advantage over them. You'll be able to pass them, especially as they pit in for a new set of tires. The pit loss is around 9.3 seconds, so you're definitely going to be able to pass a couple people, but after that, it's kind of all going to be downhill. So for example, the person in first place should be pitting in right now. They're about 3 seconds ahead of us, and we're going to go ahead and pass them because we're doing the no stop strategy. And we're going to end up around 5 seconds ahead of them as they come out of the pit stops. And while that is a good thing for now, it's going to end up falling apart towards the very end of the race. And the reason why is because the racing medium tires are going to be very worn out, and you're not going to have the grip to get around these turns as fast as possible. So you're going to be at a pretty big disadvantage. You're basically going to be a sitting duck. And because the person who pitted is on a new set of racing soft tires, and because their car is lighter because of all the fuel they use, they're going to be a heck of a lot faster, and they're going to easily catch up to you. You're basically going to need to have a massive gap to make it really hard for them to catch up to you. You basically need to be right behind them as they pit so you can take full advantage of them. But once again, it's going to be really hard to do that once you have the really worn medium tires, and it's going to make it even easier for them to catch up to you. And you know things are bad when you have to brake for the chicane of death, and if there's someone right behind you who is also on the racing soft tires, and yeah, it gets really scary. And also, don't forget to fuel safe, because if you run out of fuel, you're going to make yourself look a little silly, because that's actually going to end up happening to me. So I'm trying to make a last push, and right around here is where I'm going to end up running out of fuel. So second place gets to waltz on by to the finish line, and I just have to end up crawling to the finish line. So yeah, make sure you save fuel so that doesn't end up happening to you. So what about the two-stop and the alternate one-stop strategy where you do the soft into mediums or mediums into soft? We'll talk about the two-stop first, because the person in first place is actually doing the two-stop right now. So he's about to pull in for his second pit stop, and while this does mean that the tire wear is less of an issue for you, the additional pit stop is going to hurt you quite a bit. So I'm going to end up around 8 to 9 seconds ahead of him, and while he is going to be able to slowly catch up to me because of his fresher soft tires, it's not going to be enough for him to be able to completely catch up to me. And with the alternate one stop where you do soft into mediums or vice versa, the medium stint is going to be 1 second per lap slower than a lap on the soft tires, so that is going to put you at a bit of a disadvantage. But if tire wear saving is not really your thing and you're just trying to do your best to make your tires last, then this is a possible strategy along with the two-stop strategy. Both of them got me the exact same time of 22 minutes and 55 seconds, but once again, these are not the fastest strategies. The no stop on the mediums is not the fastest strategy, and it's actually more of like a dangerous strategy if you ask me. And that one was only 1 second faster than the two stop and alternate one stop. And the one stop where you only pit in for a new set of soft tires is going to be the fastest way around with a time of 22 minutes and 49 seconds. You just need to be careful to not end up with too many penalties, try not to end up in too many battles, and just try your best to fuel safe as well, but to tire save as well, to make your tires last at least 6 to 7 laps. And finally, we'll talk about places to overtake and the penalty serving zone, in which is only one. So the main straight is probably going to be the best place to get an overtake, because as a slipstream, you can slingshot past the car and try to get around it before you reach the first braking point. Then we'll fast forward to the uphill section, or just as we start to go downhill, as there's only one penalty serving zone, and it is right here. So you won't lose too much time from serving a penalty, but it's still going to be a bit of an issue if you do have to serve a penalty. Then we'll fast forward to just after the S's, as this is another place where you can try to get an overtake done. You can try to slingshot past them, especially if they got a bad exit through the S's. And for this area right here, you just want to try to get the overtake done if you're still battling it out with someone. But make sure you do not enter the chicane going too wide, because if you go too wide, you guys are just going to end up hitting the chicane to death. And with this car being wide, you're just asking for trouble. And finally, this place, the back straight just before the main straight, is another good place to get an overtake done. So let's go ahead and quickly summarize things up. So the first one is to not hit the chicane of death. That's pretty much a given. The other one is to fuel save, shift around the halfway point of the bar being full, and you should be fine. And you want to try to do a little bit of tire saving, bring the brake balance all the way to the rear of the car. You want to try to make your tires last as long as possible. And there's a lot of strategies that are available for this race since there's no tire requirements, but the fastest one is going to be the one stop, where you go from one set of soft tires into another set of soft tires. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me. So if you want to support me, you can do so by pressing the like button, subscribe, and all that good stuff. You can also further support me by checking out my Patreon or the YouTube memberships, which is opening up soon. Or the best way to support me, especially for this race, is to not hit the chicane of death. So yeah, that's all from me. I'm going to sign off now. So this is MrMCA, wishing you a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.